Welcome, and in this video we look at a smoky engine. Okay, so this isn't good. Victory! Yes! Even the fuse diagram's telling me to buy an SL55 AMG. Good morning. It is the next day, as in the next day after the last video I released, and the car battery drain issue is still the one that I'm looking into. The battery is now back in the car. It's been off charge for about 10 hours maybe, basically since almost this time yesterday. And what I'm going to do live is turn the multimeter on to volts, 12.53 volts. So that is pretty much what it was resting at when I had it sitting out of the car. Tiny bit low, tiny bit low, but still acceptable. Now, what that would suggest is that there isn't a drain at the moment. So what we've done so far is I've taken the battery out the car. It was sitting at 11.4 volts. We have charged the battery fully till it got to 12.6 volts, and we then left the battery sitting for over a day, came back out, tested it a couple of times, and it rested at 12.54 volts. So I've put it back into the car. Granted, the alarm system isn't switched on, the lock mechanism isn't switched on. I tested it in the car with the car running, so we did run the car with a new valve cover gasket and it's okay. And the alternator was charging it up to 13.6, 13.7 volts, so the alternator's working, it's charging it, and now the car's been sitting, sleeping. All the systems will be asleep. I turned the lights off because I've had the windows open, I've had the doors open, I've got the trunk open, and the trunk light is out. What I should have said right at the start, throughout this whole process I've had the trunk open. I removed that light, that one there. So obviously that would drain the battery if it stayed on all the time. And the voltage hasn't went down any more than it did when the battery was out the car. Now that would suggest that there isn't a drain of any significance. If there is, it's a system that isn't on, which is the alarm and the locking mechanism. But I pulled the fuse last night for the lock and for the PSE pump, and it was absolutely fine. Oh my goodness, this car's been in here a couple of days and there's already cobwebs. What's going on here? So, oh my lord, cobwebs everywhere. Jeez. So if we press this now, this should work because the battery's now been reinstalled. My helper today is currently sitting in watching Marvel films, so I'm not interested in this boring stuff. So that's the fuse box that holds the fuses for the pump, the PSE pump, and various other bits and pieces that I will pull and see. If there isn't an active drain, it's going to be difficult to use that method to actually figure out what's going on. So here we have the diagram. You can take a screenshot of this if you wish. This is the fuse diagram for this car, for the fuse box behind, in my case, the driver's seat, but if you're in America, the passenger seat. So there we go. So we've got, that was, I think I said in the last video, it was fuse number 20. It's not, it's a 20 amp fuse. A 30 amp fuse, sorry. It's a 20 amp fuse for the pneumatic system equipment, the PSE pump, and it's position number 71. So this is quite a handy guide that I downloaded from the web. So we have fuses here for the CD changer, for the radio, which is what I thought it could be, the command system. We have fuses for emergency call system, which don't need anymore. TV tuner, don't have that. RVC hydraulic unit, control unit, and there's some that are just valid for the SL55 AMG. Even the fuse diagram's telling me to buy an SL55 AMG. You know, it's just thrown it in your face. So these are the ones that I'm going to be checking if we had a significant drain. Now, I did have the drain, it went down to 11.4 volts, so pretty significant. That's basically the battery almost at 50% charge, considered to be 50% charge. What to do now? What I think I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to get a clamp meter and clamp it round the negative terminal so that I can tell if there's a drain. So I'm just doing this myself. So the multimeter can do it, but you need to disconnect the negative terminal on the battery to do it. So I think I'm going to get a clamp meter and I'm going to clamp it around the negative terminal just to prove to myself there isn't an active drain. And what I'm going to try is locking the car and seeing if I can still pick up a drain somehow. And if that's the case, it's the locking and alarm mechanism that's doing it. But I've checked the back of this car. There doesn't appear to be a tracker at all fitted to this car with a secondary battery, so which means that's not the cause of the drain. So it could be that dome light, having said that, because I did turn that off last night. So, hey, I can live without a dome light. But we'll fix it anyway, so let's crack on. Okay, we are back. And battery's still sitting at full. And you can see we've got this clamp meter attached to the negative cable. Right, let's just hold it right there. Can anyone spot a deliberate mistake? This clamp meter only measures amps for AC current, little wiggly line next to where the red pointer's pointing to. Doesn't measure DC on the clamp meter itself, on the jaws. So whatever reading I'm getting here is probably not the correct one. So pretty much chuck out anything that I'm saying in this section because I don't think this clamp meter is going to be accurate. So I will try and buy another one and attempt to read the DC readings, but you'll find out later on that I've got another way of finding out if the battery's okay or not. So, and what I want to see is, does the light go out when I shut the boot lid? Lose my phone forever here if I can't get the boot open. Well, you tell me, did it? Alright, so this is going to be the final test I'm going to do in this battery because, as you can see here, even with this light on and the car sitting resting, there's 20 milliamps, 21 at most, coming through the negative battery cable. Now, R230 guys, comment below if you think that's a significant enough drain to drain this battery over the course of a few days. Because when this light's off, that drops to 6. I'm not going to take it out just now, I'll just put it back together. And if you look now, the battery has been sitting in the car for about 3 days and it's dipped below 12 volts again. So, to conclude this, to conclude it again, the battery is draining out of the car slowly and in the car slowly. And according to the clamp meter, there's only 20 milliamps with that little light on, even less with the light off. So what I'm going to do now is take this battery out and go and return it and get a new one. But I'm going to get a Varta because this battery was pretty cheap compared to the Bosch or the Varta ones that I could have bought. So let's go. Alright, there we go. New Varta battery in, which was about £75 more expensive than the Lion one. So I took it back to the shop and no problems at all. They did say that the brand of battery that I bought, they have had a few returns for the cheaper brands for not holding charge. So I thought, why not? I'll just get a replacement one it's a better brand, more expensive one, and it completely rules out any dud battery issues. So I'll check the voltage of this one every couple of days and see if it holds charge, and hopefully that should be the electrical issues resolved for now. Touch wood. So, okay, so what have we concluded? Well, battery takes a charge. You've just seen it, there is no significant drain with the car fully locked. Even after 15 minutes it drops to like 6 milliamps, and there's no drain overnight. The battery was pretty much the same voltage this morning as it was last night. So, no error in the dash, everything's reset. The wing mirrors are folding in and folding out when I'm locking and unlocking the car. Had to reset that. What I have done though is in the instrument cluster, I've turned down the convenience features of the light, so these were set to stay on for 30 seconds, as were the when you lock the car. So I've turned that down to 15. Same with the interior light, turned that down to 15 seconds. So just as a precaution really, but there's nothing for me to go and hunt for. There's no drain. I could start pulling fuses left, right and centre, but that is 6 milliamps. It's probably not going to fluctuate very much. There's nothing. If it was like 60 milliamps or 70 and you pulled a fuse and it went down to 6, that's where your problem lies. So I'm done with this just now. This is it. So I've diagnosed it for a good few days now, taken my time, and I can't see any significant issue. So you do have a fuse box, fuse panel behind the battery there. There's also one here. There's one in the passenger footwell, I believe. And there's one behind the driver's seat. And there's a fuse just in front of the battery. So there's a few places where you can check fuses. But like I say, it'd be a fruitless exercise for me just now. But if there's any R230 guys watching this, please comment below with your experiences with a battery drain, because although mine did go down to 11.4 volts, nothing's happening now. It's absolutely fine. So there's absolutely nothing that I can do to diagnose it. I'll just have to drive the car and see if it happens again. So there we have it. We'll sign off in that problem just now. Charging the battery, taking it out of the car and checking all the systems and checking for the drain is probably the best I can do for just now. So next up, I want to get the car back out on the road. I'm going to do that valve cover gasket over there, and we're going to give the exhaust manifold down here just a wee clean up, because when I did start the car, when I was testing for battery drain, a wee bit of smoke coming out. I'm pretty sure it's just the oil that has dripped onto the manifold that's starting to burn off as the car heats up. So we'll go for that. And the more exciting thing is my mystery package has arrived from CKS Performance, and that is these. So we're going to be fitting them. I might just do it when I've got the car in here rather than taking it out and back in, but we'll see. So battery drain, not an issue at the moment. Play it by ear. I'll keep an eye on the back battery with a multimeter every now and again. We'll just see if it reappears, but car's in pretty good health. I have at the moment coil packs out of the other side for doing the valve cover gasket, which I'm about to just take off shortly. The difference with this one is, like I said before, you get two PCV hoses. I actually ripped that one, taking it off, so I do have a replacement. I'm going to put a replacement hose on. They're on they're pretty stuck on there, so I had to use some silicone lubricant WDs type stuff to squirt into them and get them off. Now I need to take off this. I don't have a claw foot to torque this back, so I've just marked it where it's going to be resting. And what you can do with this is, that is the fuel rail, obviously. There's a Schrader valve here that you can take off, and I've already done this off camera. So little screwdriver in there, and it will squirt any pressure fuel out. Get a cloth, put it there, and it will take just a little bit of fuel out of that rail. I didn't have any because the car has been sitting still for a good number of weeks now actually. So you will still get some spillage, which I'll video when I take this off. All you need to do is put a cloth underneath and mop it up, make sure it doesn't drip anywhere, and you're good to go. This valve cover is actually loose, so more than likely it's been dripping oil onto the manifold, which we'll clean before we start the car up and make sure there's no traces of oil to produce the best smells of smoke that we got from the other side. So this was off easy peasy as well, no problem, all the bolts are out. I've reused my magic bolt holder for this side, so we'll finish that job off today or tomorrow. Same video for you, and we're good to go. Okay, crack that 17mm nut there loose, and this pipe, just stick it off to the side, and the fuel will start dripping out of the fuel rail there. So I'm just going to leave this cloth there to mop it up and then just chuck it out. You see that little, there's for the pipe attached, and the fuel just kind of drips out there. It's not a lot, just enough to be soaked up with that cloth. Then the valve cover will be ready to come off once that pipe is out of the way. Alright, so we have the valve cover off and the gaskets off the cylinder head as well. Just taped up the wee fuel inlet there and put some paper towels there just in case. This side looking okay as well. No immediate signs of any damage or anything like that. But this time I have put a towel down over the exhaust manifold because I'm taking my time with these gaskets and cleaning the valve cover, so there is oil dripping onto the manifold, and I don't want the repeat of the other side when I slightly panicked with the smoke that was coming off it as I started the car, so trying to avoid that this time. So this is the result after I started the car, did the first valve cover gasket. Lots of white smoke, and it was just oil that had found its way onto the manifold itself and it was burning it off. So harmless, it will become less the more you start the car, but I did go and give the manifold a good clean, and to avoid that on the second side I put down a green microfiber cloth to try and help. Plus I did burst one of the PCV hoses this time, taking it off. It was just a bit brittle and the actual hose is split. You can see that there, that one got split at the end. But like I said before, thankfully I did buy Febby hoses replacements, so this one just connects to here and goes into the air intake there, so that's pretty straightforward just to pop off. They do get brittle over time, so I would probably buy the full pack of these like I did if you're doing this job, just in case some of them do break as you're removing them, which just happened to me. So I do have an alternative parts washer, which is, I better not let the other half see this because it could get messy on the chips here. However, cleaned them up as best I could before I brought them out of here, give them a rinse down, and we'll now put them back in, and we're going to put the little red RTV along this gasket line here to attach this cover to the main one. So here's all the remnants of the old gaskets on the PCV covers. Guess how long that took me to pick off and clean, because if you don't clean all this off, it's never going to reseal properly. So Mercedes could make a jigsaw gasket out of that template and start selling it, and it would save a good few hours of time. Anyway, only one place for this. The bin. Job is done. Both gaskets are back on. Sorry, gasket covers are back on with the new gaskets. I've hooked up the coil packs again. We have tightened the fuel nut back so we can see that line in the top. We have both PCV hoses in place, and I'll probably wait until tomorrow until the red RTV has a decent amount of time to set, and then we'll start it and we'll see if we have any smoke coming out, because last time when I started that side we did, but like I say, I haven't seen any evidence of it leaking, and I haven't seen any evidence of oil dripping anywhere, so I'm pretty confident it was just me spilling it on the manifold as I was doing the job in the first place. So have it, engine back together, new batteries in the trunk. We're almost ready to start the car again and hopefully get it outside for a wee while before the summer finishes. Victory! Yes! It's alive! Nothing's hooked up again. And so far, no smoke. I was just spilling because I did this side smoked as well. I am absolutely brilliant, happy with this. This is great. I'm going to get the air intake back on, but I'm going to leave it running for a wee while and just make sure everything's okay. But so far, so good. Okay, so it looks as if don't want to jinx it, we're looking good. The valve cover gaskets are both replaced and did drip some oil on both manifolds, and if anyone does this job themselves, does one side, starts the car and sees smoke and not from the other side, chances are if you do both sides and you drip some oil, you'll see smoke coming from both sides like I did, and it will eventually disappear. It's nothing really to worry about, it's just oil that's dripped onto the exhaust, and once the car gets up to temperature you'll see white smoke coming out, but it'll burn off. Probably if I drove this it would burn off a lot quicker, but I let it idle for a good wee while in here to check for leaks, and it's getting less and less and less and less and less, and eventually get down to nothing. But the car could be getting back to normality now after its little bout of car COVID, something like that, we'll call it that. So the battery at the back has been replaced. It's a Varta, and so far it's holding its own at 12.54 volts, and I have been opening the door, turning the ignition on, checking the lights inside, moving the seats back and forward with the car off, and the battery's still holding its own at 12.5 volts. The other battery I had in would have been down at about 12 after doing all that stuff. So could it have just been I bought a cheap Duff battery because I can't find a drain? I'm getting a clamp meter, and I'll try the clamp meter on the negative terminal cable just to make sure there isn't a drain, but I don't think there is, because even if I faff the car, don't turn the engine on, but move some electrics inside, the battery doesn't drain that much, whereas the old one did. So tomorrow we'll just do one more final start up and test, make sure there's no leaks, get the air filter cover back on, get the engine cover back on, do one more check on the battery, make sure it's not draining overnight, which I very much doubt it will now, and then we'll get out in the road. Now I do have my wing mirrors, new wing mirrors that came, which I need to install. They're not bolt-on replacements, you have to splice the wires, indicators to work. But see, to be honest, the car's been off the road now for a good 3 weeks. I'm just desperate to get it back out a drive before the summer stops. So the mirrors can wait, they can wait. I'm going to do them in another video, don't worry, I will do them in another video, but I want this car back out in the road while the weather's still nice. That is what it's for after all. Once again, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to comment below if you've had similar problems to what I've had in this video. But thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next one.